We'll see if our next players can keep their tournament hopes alive as we head into our first match of the round. I believe this is round 7 we are going into. I have lost track of the day, but I am enjoying a lot of the Riftbound. Yeah, round 7 sounds about right, as our players, of course, are looking to get to that coveted spot. I know we had some 6-0 players coming out of the last round already, and we have a spicy one today with Rumble going up against Viktor. Rumble definitely in that prize card, like best of prize card bracket, I would say, where you could look at performing and taking down the tournament, but the mech-based play from Rumble has not really found its place in the meta. You essentially are just kind of playing units on a curve and then giving them some synergies with the mechs and then hoping that you can kind of stay in the game and stay later on.
I really like this iteration of the deck because it plays more genuinely good staple cards for this Fury and this Mind colors, these domains. It's really, really strong. It's looking very good. I mean, you're not playing too many mechs, as you said before, but you have some pushes with your mechs, and then we have Viktor, and this is Viktor leader, finally.
I know you were looking forward to casting this deck specifically, this version of Viktor, which is not the kill spell Viktor. You said this one is a lot more wide board, lots of units based.
It has Xin Zhao in it. One of my favorite junglers of all time. Xin Zhao is so much fun to play in League of Legends, and of course also in Riftbound, because this card really gets you going fast. This is an aggro deck if you want in Riftbound. There's very few of those, but you can just, in your first turn, always get at least 1 unit, of course, because of the Viktor. There's a good chance that you're starting with 2 units, and then on the next turn you get your Xin Zhao in as well. That is already pushing for so much. You're rushing a big board. You have Cull the Weak, so this card also stops your opponent from, you know, chasing you when it comes to the board state. So I think this deck can overwhelm your opponent quite fast.
And the important thing on Xin Zhao, as you were kind of alluding to, is Xin Zhao, if you have 2 units, enters ready. So is able to get onto the battlefield, conquer, and get things going early on. There is a little bit of a finish in this deck with Under Titan, where but the turn it is played gives your units +1 might. I think it's +2. +2, sorry, +2.
Under Titan, really nice top of the curve for the Viktor deck, if you are even playing that card. But also, something that I just really enjoy from the Viktor deck is you play 2 drops in that deck. You play cards that you can play on curve, but with Viktor it's almost always correct to just start out with a recruit token. You want to maximize the value you get from your leader's ability, and we can see it again. There is going to be another recruit token. We're coming in with the Xin Zhao. You have 2 units already in your base, so that means that you can just absolutely rush into one of the battlefields. Now the big question is, are you going to push into the Trefarian War Camp? Yes, you are. While I would assume that the other recruit token will give Vilmore's Lair a visit.
It is a likely way of, you know, getting that clock going.
Are we?
Yes. Reaching for the recruit. Yeah, makes sense to go up to 2. As we look to pass the turn.
I love Xin Zhao Vigilant because this card...
I can tell already.
It's not only aggressive, right? But it also has tanks. So if you are using it to push into a battlefield and you put some recruits behind it, your opponent will have to assign the damage first. It's great. You protect your little ones.
That is more utility than Xin Zhao has in League of Legends. As a League of Legends caster, you're seeing Xin Zhao, you're always like, well, he's going to do 1 thing and that's it, and then he's going to die, and that's the end of the game. But in Riftbound, he has a second ability with tank, so is able to tank through. But here comes Rumble on
Scrapper
to the Vilmore's Lair. As first time we're seeing Rumble today. So mechs get Assault. All of your mechs get Assault from the Legend ability, and then the Scrapper version is also going to give you +1 might.
I think the Legend ability gives you Defend.
Oh, sorry.
Which is much better if you're trying to stack up big time in this Vilmore's Lair. However, when you start stacking up your cards in the Vilmore's Lair, you are limiting yourself to this battlefield relatively fast, I will say.
Yeah, I appreciate the correction. That is me sitting the other side of the table.
That is absolutely fine, because Rumble Hot-Headed actually gives you Assault.
That's
so there's
where it is.
Good comment. Yesterday I played some Rumble. I know my stuff about that.
You did. Let's not talk about who won that game in the game that you were playing Rumble. I think we should focus on this game a little bit more, because I can save you save you some slight embarrassment on that one, but it's all good. A grip of cards, including Death Grip at this point. So another, card that came in from Spirit Forge. It's a draw mechanic. It also allows you to kind of buff up a unit. A draw mechanic for your opponent, though, is the Hidden Blade on the Rumble. Just going to say, yeah, I'll give you 2 cards. That's fine.
I don't know. I mean, that's very, very early. I don't really think you have anything to back this up, right? So it's going to be tough to push here. We're going to just get another token, so that means you won't be able to play your Faithful Manufacturer of Curve on this turn. I think maybe you're going for a possible Forge of the Future. No, we're going to go Cull the Weak. We just Cull the Weak for a Plundering Poro. That is a very aggressive play. Of course, you are playing an aggro deck. You want to score more points to get rid of that battlefield. And honestly, the more I think of that, the more I like it. Because you are assembling points. There is nothing in the base for Rumble. Rumble is not exactly known for having so many mechs that are entering ready, but this is red, this is Fury, you can go Kaiser, you can accelerate, that's going to be a good time.
Absolutely can. I think based on the list we saw at the beginning, there are Watchers in this deck as well. So there's another. You called a Kaiser, there is a Kaiser coming down onto the battlefield. And one thing this deck can struggle a little bit with the standard mech version of Rumble is if you trade like efficient removal into it, it kind of just falls over a little bit. But Kaiser definitely changes that complexion a little now. We'll be able to go to the battlefield, look to draw, because there is a Stupefy coming out.
I love this, especially because you're not pushing your Kaiser into the Vile Mauslayer, because yes, that's a very easy take there. You're gonna get a draw, it's gonna be nice, but in this situation, you want to be able to retreat your Kaiser on the next turn or do some other stuff with it and then get more draws in the future. I really love that Klimczur was able to punish his opponent for that, because honestly, that was a lot of points that you got from this play, right? But culling the weak, a Plundering Poro, that is not only dedication, that is commitment, but it's also very bold.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you would love to have that Cull the Weak back up. Yeah, you would love to be able to Cull the Weak, the Kaiser from this situation. Although, if you don't deal with the Paro, it wouldn't actually work for the Kaiser, because obviously you do get the choice as the player when you have 2 units. So we'll see where our Viktor player goes next.
My issue with that play was you were ahead in points.
Yeah.
Your opponent used a lot of energy and a lot of cards from hand to put them into the Vile Mauslayer. Is that the point where you say, okay, I'm going to stick with the Treferian Warcamp, or I'm going to stack recruits in my base until I find something like an Imperial Decree to easily out that Vile Mauslayer, because nobody is rushing me to commit all of these cards there and to get the fast points, because those were not easy points. Sometimes there's an open battlefield, you push a recruit and you know it's going to get traded away, but it's an easy point. That was a lot committed, a lot of runes committed, a lot of cards from hand committed to just get rid of those 2 units that really did not threaten you that much.
Forge of the Future comes out as well. Klimczur had to read it. It's also a card that I always think is a unit, because
it's just
the guy, it's just a dude, a very ripped dude, just coming onto the battlefield, and I'm like, wait, does that have a might? No, it plays a recruit, and you can kill it to recycle 4 cards from Trashes, is the specific wording here. Trashes means you can choose either trash pile to recycle from.
Of course, that is much more useful versus Chaos decks, because they tend to start even milling themselves, if not just cycling through their cards. Cold Shot.
Stops them rassing for quite so cheap.
Exactly. However, you give them a bunch of cards back, but I mean, if you put them on the bottom of the deck, the card draw gets less strong, I want to say. But Forge of the Future really is, I think what the guy is saying on the card is, why am I not a unit? that is I think that's what he's asking. Very sure about that.
I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you, man.
See, and now, I mean, yes, we got to hold with a recruit, which is good, but oh wow, are we trying to do it in, I think we do it in base and Vile Mauslayer, right? Oh no. We just get rid of everything.
Yeah, you get everything from the back line with the repeat, and
but you can't hold. There's no way you let your opponent hold to 6, I would say. Ferris Forerunner is played somewhere. I don't know where exactly the Ferris Forerunner is being played, but it is surely somewhere.
I think they're defining...
That does... Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay, now
now I can see the clarity on that.
I do like Bellows breathing the entire backline.
Right.
Big fan of that. Now, considering that otherwise, if you take care of the recruit token, your opponent is just going to be able to conquer with the Faithful Manufacturer. So you just have the moment to retreat there with the Kaiser as well and give no punish for your opponent to bring in a ready unit and then just take that point as well. It's a bit greedy. If there is something that can accelerate, you're getting punished. But I think we are at only 7 runes because of that Cult of Weak play.
Yeah.
Only 1 Mind Rune, so you don't even have to play around a Watcher.
And you don't necessarily have the payoff here for that Under Titan. I believe there is one in hand. So Seal gets played.
Good old Seal of Unity.
Yeah. Combos with that Viktor ability so well. You just get to spend the rune. Okay, now I'll recycle it. Get a seal. Play a card. Play Viktor, the leader, on to the base. In Origins, I feel like there was a lot of discussion around like, well, you never really end up playing Viktor to a battlefield at almost any point. And some people were like, well, I don't really even play Viktor because he doesn't do a whole lot sometimes.
I barely ever used that card when I was playing Viktor. However, you need to time your turns a lot when you want to play the Viktor leader, because if you want to invest so much energy and power, then you will have to get the maximum payoff off of it. And I think now, he's a vanilla, right? You don't have anything else except for recruits. Ferris Formula is going to take another one. Now I think Rumble is way ahead in this matchup. It looked so good for Viktor in the start, got so many points, but ran out of steam.
And here's where some of the difficulty comes from playing against a Ferris Forerunner is if you deal with it once, if you deal with it once, you got to deal with the other one on the other battlefield. And again, it replaces itself with effectively the same amount of might. So when Ferris Forerunner dies, the Death Knell effect will kick in. You'll get 2 3-might mech units. So actually ends up in Rumble being better because both will get any buffs that you have applying to mechs.
But now, we're getting extremely close to the end game. I think this is the end game now, right? So we have Chacho on the other side, who's already at 6, so just needs a double conquer, versus Klimczur, who is at 5. So if you let Klimczur hold here, while you're setting up your base, you lose nothing from it. It doesn't matter if your opponent is at 6, it doesn't matter if they're at 7, they just can't go to 8. So that's still a turn to chill. What I think you really need, because that's a very sticky field there that Klimczur has, you need Imperial Decree. And you need so many more units in your base to clear off those units, because the mechs will spawn in base. You play the mech tokens into the base, they're going to be absolutely useless on the turn in which you double conquer.
Right.
If you just clear those fields, I think you lose 100%, because that's going to be 12 might in base just from death kneels.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to remember whether there are any time warps in this deck from the deck list that we saw at the front. It's not one in hand, so it would have to come off the top for any kind of other tricky way into winning this matchup, because is there a world where you conquer one, like take out the Ferris Forerunner that is on Vialmors, for instance, in a way, and then on next turn, if you had Time Warp, you'd be able to hold from 7 to 8?
It's funny that you asked this, but I think in the deck list we saw that only 2 Mind Runes are being played, so...
Well, they're both there, so...
Oh, no,
you can't, exactly, you can never play. Wow, I have seen a lot of the Order runes, but yeah, okay, I'm guessing in that case there is no Time Warp in this deck.
You can attempt to play a Watcher in this deck, but there's going to be very few situations where you're going to accelerate it, actually.
I'm glad you've spotted that, because I wasn't prepared to count the rune colors at this point in the game. I wasn't tracking it. I wonder whether, because again, closed deck list, so Klimczur, I guess, won't be able to, they'll have to have counted the rune types that have been recycled at this point.
It comes up so rarely that the rune types actually matter. But
this is one.
Yeah, exactly, but people don't really pay too much attention to it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you're checking if your opponent resolves all their cards correctly and play their cost.
Of course, yeah.
Viktor holding a BF sword is not something you see every day.
We're playing some AD Viktor at this point. I guess the thing is, if you conquer, you will take the battlefield, but it's going to get replaced by 2 mechs on the back end.
Yeah. Do you have a win condition from this? I mean, you can't really do nothing, but as I said earlier, if your opponent just holds 1 battlefield, they are just in still a sublime position.
Oh.
Wait, what happens now?
Was there a
Stupefy or something? Oh wait, we have Rumble. It's a mech.
Yeah, so it's getting the bonus, the shield. Yeah, and I think that Chacho also kind of miscalculated on that, not counting for the defender trigger that will come through and give it +1.
It looks like you're playing versus mid-range Kaiser when you're just looking at the unit, so I think it's also very easy to forget that there is actually a Rumble Legend ability active in play.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
exactly.
did too.
And we talked about it earlier as well, so it's one of those things that, like, you... To give a little bit of benefit of the doubt, when you're in a featured match area and you kind of like have something come up and then you lose track of it, you forget, even as casters, we're like, yeah, well, we've talked about it already, so I'm just going to forget that and put that in the back of my mind and not really recognize it. But that does make this board state way worse because Viktor doesn't see himself die, so you don't get a recruit from that. There's no real way of refilling the board after that other than to use the legend ability and play, I believe it's an unsung hero under the recruit.
But is that recruit really ready? Because then you have an easy conquer on the Vile Mausoleum if there is nothing like a Hextech Ray in play.
I think it was. I'm assuming it was the one from the previous turn that was played from the legend ability.
The question is, what do you have in your deck that you could possibly use for a double conquer turn in the future? Do you want to keep as many recruits around as possible to maybe find an Imperial Decree push in the next few turns? If you top deck Imperial Decree, you equip the BF sword to your unsung hero, you trade into one of the battlefields, so you take out everything that is in there because you can spread the damage, right?
And you get the draw 2 at that point.
You get the draw 2, and then you might actually find other units that can help you. So I think not taking the easy point and hoping for more units to go for an eventual double conquer in the end game could be the right choice.
This is another one of these times where when you're on the even point marker, getting the odd point of like going from 4 to 5 or 6 to 7 is a lot less impactful if you don't have like Time Warp in your deck, for instance. Going from 6 up to 7 points with Time Warp, very, very much a valid strategy. But when you're here looking for that double conquer, sometimes it is better to just save the resources, because as you said, it's untapped. If you have Imperial Decree, you can clear out some of the battlefields. However, multiple units does make Imperial Decree a little bit trickier, and a Singularity will make it even harder, because the Unsung Hero goes, Recruit goes. Now we're down to 1 unit with 2 battlefields held, with at least 10, at least without a Defender trigger going on one of them, and then another 8 on the other battlefield. I don't see a way out of this.
How is that legal, that this is the best play in that scenario? Singularity on a 2-drop and a recruit. That sounds so wrong, but it was so right, because otherwise the BF sword equips, you get 2 draws, you can find a way back into this game. Now Viktor is completely starved out of resources. Klimczur on the Rumble is just sitting there chilling. 8 mites from 2 mech tokens. We'll never forget about that one again with Rumble.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to forget about that one. I mean, I'm looking at even... Yeah, okay, there we go. Chacho is going to extend the hand for game number 1. I mean, even Watcher doesn't do it. You can't clear both battlefields at that point. I don't think you were able to really get over the top. That's another thing to keep in mind. Because of the sequencing there, you always have to be aware that Watcher will apply the minus first, and then when you go into combat, the defender, you know, the additional might will come from that defender trigger coming through. So you've always got to account for that in your math problem.
Very interesting to see. Did Klimczur, I think the name was, count the runes of his opponent?
Because do they know?
If you see that your opponent is on 10 order and 2 mind, you can almost always rule out the Watcher, right? Watcher is a theoretical play that could be played, but I think it's interesting deck building if you just include 2 mind runes if you play a Watcher.
You just know that you're going to have the runes. We're going to find out as we go through sideboarding and the main board again. It has been a day of quite a few different matchups, so trying to hold which Viktor exactly the lineup we have. There is an Imperial Decree in the sideboard. I get a
Singularity on 2 mind runes is wild.
Yeah, it's there. They're just gonna.
The thing is,
hey, if you need it, it's there. You'll get it. You'll draw it.
I think I agree with like 4 mind runes, right? You
so there's no Watcher in this deck, and actually there's almost no there's really no way of playing the blue anyway.
You play triple seals.
Yeah.
There is very few chances that you're actually going to lack order runes in your deck at some point. And if you're siding cards like Singularity, I think you want to have 4. I think you want to at least threaten a Watcher. You want your opponent to play around cards that are not there, because that is actually also in Riftbound a pretty key part of your strategy. There is so many interactions that can be played on any turn. If you're taking Draven, for example, I think if your opponent has 2 runes open and they're playing Draven, there's 8 different cards you kind of should play around, and you have to take every single thing into consideration.
Yeah.
If you're just playing 2 Mind Runes, there's so many cards that your opponent can't rule out. I would not play around Watcher, I would not play around Singularity.
Right.
Might come back to bite you after siding, but there might also be a dead Singularity in your hand if you do not find your rune.
Ooh, here's the aggro turn potentially going into turn 2 for Viktor. So it is an Obelisk of Power game coming into this one. So being able to play the Unsung Hero and a Recruit in the first turn is a nice spot to be in.
Do we just start with our Rumble Hothead?
We do.
Yes, we just throw it in immediately. By the way, did you know that with the Arena's Greatest, each player scores a point in the beginning and it doesn't just go to 7, it goes to 8 still?
I'm glad you had the moment to clarify that.
Oh my.
As we'll see as this matchup continues. Taking a look at our Rumble player's hand, that is a Breakneck Mech, which is not a card that I see very often. Gives them deflect and ganking.
Yep, that is actually quite a lot, and it's a fun card to get out if you have it, but there's also quite something that you have to resolve it. Yes, yeah, that was my reaction too.
I'll be honest, same. Card recognition, rally the troops. Okay, yeah, of course. So we're getting through. It's been a long day. It's been a long day at this point. No Xin Shao at this point, Vanguard Captain. So we're getting buffs, essentially, and you get to draw one. So able to just kind of refill the hand, get a bunch of recruits. That's actually quite nice at this point. You're going to stack up quite the board at this point. Yeah. You go up to, you basically just added 8 might to the board very quickly. And here's the aggro side of things.
What a big combo there.
Yeah, that's nice.
That is a lot already. But again, not starting with the Seal of Unity is a bit unfortunate, because in those Viktor decks, sometimes in Houston we saw a different iteration in set 1 of the Viktor deck where you didn't play seals, you actually wanted to play more Mind Runes. But in those Seal of Unity Viktor leader decks, they are so rune hungry. They are power hungry, actually. And if you do not find the seals, sometimes you're really on the back foot. Wow, that is already something. Hothead and the Ferris Forerunner, no runes open, so if there is a big turn, it's gonna hurt real bad.
I guess you're kind of assuming that you're going to get the crackback on the when the mechs come back. If our Viktor player ends up, going to contest, going to conquer, gets another rally the troops in hand. If they look to conquer the battlefield, they're going to theoretically spend a lot for it. Although that Under Titan, are we at 6 runes at this point? I believe. Yeah, 6 runes at least. So you could just kind of barrel over them in force at this point with an Under Titan and 2 recruits that have been buffed.
You could conquer that battlefield, and that would fit the game plan he had in the first game, which is really committing into getting those points.
Yeah.
There is also a world in which you're chilling a little bit, because you are far ahead in points, right? You are at 4, your opponent is at 2 at this point. Still going to 8, don't get me wrong. But I think that you can just build up more units on your field. You can maybe even play a Viktor leader. You can set up a big power turn for the Under Titan, because if you play Under Titan now, you crash everything in. Okay, you can get the point, but then there's going to be 2 mechs in the base, 5 cards in hand already, so it's going to be 6. You're going to lose a lot of units.
Yeah, this is going to be a big old board state at this point. This is Faithful Manufactor, plus after the rally the troops, so everything coming in is going to get that extra buff. So Faithful Manufactor gets buffed, the Recruit gets buffed. There was I believe that we've still got Viktor Legend ability to play, and we're saying, yeah, let's just stack these out in front. It's getting crowded over here.
We're setting up a big Under Titan now.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah. We've rallied the troops, so everything gets buffed that you're playing now. Of course,
they're double rallied. Yeah. They're ready. They're good.
actually, yes. Now you get another. Oh, immediately got it from the judge sitting here with the buff token. Was like, I got you. Also, I really appreciated that we do not have the Demacian or Noxian soldier tokens anymore for the recruits in Viktor, but we have the actual Glorious Revolution recruits. Love it. That's very important to me.
They came marching straight out of the set of Arcane. There's a lot of actors on this stage for the recruits. This is going to be an interesting board state to keep a track of, as we've got an empty board basically for Rumble against an entire army marching towards
5,
battlefield.
6, 7.
Do the math.
So we have the Faithful Manufacturer, which is at 2, so that would be 8.
And it got a buff, so it's at 3.
Yeah, the buffs I'm going to add later.
Oh, okay.
Vanguard captains should be 10, so we're adding 6 buffs, which would be 16 might in total. That might be completely wrong. I'm just going to count again. 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12, 16. Oh my goodness!
I would say use the pen, but I don't want to break the stream when I do it. But that is a lot of might coming through.
It's 16 actually. Got it.
It's a lot.
And now
is that with or without the Under Titan?
Without the Under Titan.
Without the Under Titan. Okay. So then you add the Under Titan on top of it, and
don't get me started on counting again.
There
please.
we go. I get the abacus out. Start moving the beads.
I cannot be asked to count this again, but we have a big Under Titan turn ahead of us. Of
There's
course,
the seal. Right when you don't need it anymore.
The thing is, I would still like to see an Imperial Decree. Because, oh my goodness, it's double seal, of course. This card, it's just always there when you don't need it anymore. You're absolutely right about that. I think if you had an Imperial Decree, you would rather like to trade away with those 2 units, get those max into the base, and then later on run over them again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you're shoving recruits in that battlefield, you're gonna get a decent trade. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna feel great because of the value you're getting. But then again, you're losing so many recruits. They are valuable. We don't trade lives here.
The buff token's got to go with it.
I think that's the unbuffed. Wait, the buff's missing.
That's what I mean. I think it's a recruit token with a buff token under it, and a recruit token under that, and a buff token under that.
But,
I think.
But was one recruit without a buff.
You see, it is. Move the buff with it. That's got to go.
There was one token without a buff, I think.
There it is. Move it. Okay, good.
We got it.
We picked the right recruit.
Nice. I really like that Chacho says, hey, you know what, it looks like it doesn't matter, but it does.
It does matter. That's the point. And to prove it, we'll keep it here with the buff token, and I will move the recruit that didn't have one specifically. I
really appreciate Chacho's patience in this game, because in the last one, it felt like he was rushing things. There was this Cult of the Week, stopped him from ramping onto a Plundering Poro, did not do what it was supposed to do in the end, and now I think he's just waiting with the Under Titan, this big push to get the double conquer, because if you kill a Ferris Forerunner, there's basically just another one. And actually with Rumble Hothead, they're more threatening than just the Ferris Forerunner.
That's true, because you get that additional additional activation on the 2 units rather than the 1.
1 extra might. Oh, I think we might be going for an Under Titan play here. There's not too many cards. You have Vengeance. You can play another Seals, okay. Alright, well maybe you're just setting up those.
We're just chilling.
Vengeance could also be a play here, just to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more on your curve, because if you want to go for the big Under Titan push, actually I kind of dig that if you're taking out the Ferris Forerunner, there's just the 5 might Rumble Hothead.
Yeah, I was going to ask where the Vengeance goes. Do you do it on the Forerunner now and then take the battlefield underneath it?
Yeah, I'd say you go into the first Forerunner. You know your opponent doesn't have too much. You have to be wary of the signature spell of Rumble.
Yeah.
That costs 1 energy and 1 power as well. But you're going to look at some cards here because, you know, a mech was played. And I think that now you can just go... What do you use? You take the Vanguard Captain, I'm pretty sure, because you don't want to use multiple of your units.
Yeah, so even though on its own it has the highest might, it is one of many. And you'd rather lose... I guess moving 2 is not the end of the world. It depends on whether there's... I mean, we know there's a Stupefy in hand, so you don't want to trade badly on that.
I think you need to push at least a recruit token and the Vanguard Captain, because otherwise you also don't get over the Rumble Hothead because it has Defender.
So if you go with just the one unit, you are running into Stupefy, and here we go. It is going to be the 2 units moving. Yeah, it's going to ensure that that battlefield does get conquered.
Yeah, and that also plays around the signature spell, which gives 1 might to each mech. So I really like that, because you're going to end up with the Faithful Manufacturer. It can be traded away later on, but you're not wasting recruits on this. And it seems like we have played our Viktor leader that is going to give us more recruit tokens, so we're basically trading 1 for 1 here, because honestly at this point it doesn't really matter if you have a Vanguard Captain or a token. You just want to Undertaker everything and then boom. Under Titan, sorry. It's
okay, the Undertaker can be here. Somebody hit the gong, the lights will go out. Those of you that get that reference will appreciate it. But those of you that are looking for Under Titan, it'll be very different, and you'll just get +2 to all might to all units.
In my opinion, that's better.
The board. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. I appreciate that. Going up to 6 points, though, in order to hold both means Klimczur has to put something to contest both battlefields this turn, just to make sure that you actually keep that. But the reality is, I'm trying to look at a line where you're sitting on the Rumble side of things and you actually can hold through what you're assuming is an Under Titan turn, because that is a massive amount of damage on the next turn coming from Viktor.
I like how aggressive decks in Riftbound play completely different from other TCGs, where it's not only like going for face or turning cards sideways, but you're actually preparing for big turns while you score early points. And it can be so frustrating to play against an aggressive Viktor deck, because you can get your points, you can conquer back, but you know what's coming and you might not be able to stop it.
I just want to clarify something on stream that did just happen for especially newer players that maybe aren't familiar. Because there's a Viktor leader on stream, technically what was happening and the players were shortcutting is the Faithful Manufacturer goes to the graveyard with the recruit token as well, but Chacho shortcut and just took the token that was at the battlefield, moved it to the base as technically a new unit, but just was shortcutting. It didn't actually come back to the base. It was just a quicker play. You'll see a lot of players do stuff like that.
Viktor leader is kind of hidden.
Yeah, exactly.
Would use that word, but it is a keyword, so it's
you don't get to do that.
Kind of a lie. So the Viktor is buried beneath recruits, which is something that I think he digs it.
I think he's happy with that.
You know who else is digging? The Under Titan.
I like it. We'll see how that ends up going. It's 1 mech and 1 Rumble. So, I mean, at a worst case, you're looking at, what, 2, 4, 6 can get past the Rumble, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the Viktor can get through the mech as well. There's another Ferris Forerunner. So now it's, I mean, if there's anything other than an Under Titan, it's probably the best chance that Rumble is going to have to hold this. But knowing that the Under Titan is in hand makes this a very different situation.
I want to say this is not another Ferris Forerunner, it's the same one from before, because when Rumble Hothead conquers, you can recycle one of your mechs, and then you reduce that energy cost from the mech you recycle to play out a mech from your discard.
Right. That makes sense. The same one, back again, as we go into potentially, and it gets a Call of the Week as well. Do we have the runes to play at all? I see 7.
I don't think you need to.
You don't need to, but is it just adding insult to injury at that point?
Yeah, maybe. I think what you do...
You just Under Titan slam it and get into game 3?
Yeah, I think you say, you know what? Math is for defenders. You slam the Under Titan and you let your opponent deal with it.
Yeah, math is for defenders at that point. We can co-opt that phrase. Math should actually never be for defenders. As an attacker, you should always do the math in this one. But I like the thought. I'm on board. From this position, we can say math is for defenders.
If you're playing aggro, you have to at least take some shortcuts in thinking, right? If you're playing an aggro strategy, there is a specific reason why you're playing aggro decks.
You know, there are games where I would suggest shortcutting is fine, and it would be like Nexus Knight, maybe a Summon a Skirmish. Being 5-1 in a regional qualifier event where getting to 6 wins gets you locked for day 2 is probably not the time where I would shortcut the brain power on figuring out the math. I would probably take a few of the 25 minutes that are left just to add it up, make sure it works.
That is true. We were also, of course, only joking here. Chacho is taking his sweet time with this turn. Rightfully so, it's a big turn. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
And
7.
also, I mean, you're 1-0 down in the series, right? So if this doesn't win you the game, the chances are, if Rumble can stabilize, I mean, you're going into the 5-2 spot. So it is a significant moment. Here comes the Under Titan. Onto the board.
14 might.
Sweeps across the board and says, yeah, we're getting +2 to everything.
14 might. That is absolutely incredible. So you're looking at this. We have Rumble, of course, the mechanized menace giving shield to your mechs. So on the one side, in the arena's greatest, which is, I think, the smaller defending battlefield, we have the Rumble Hothead at 5 might, and we have a mech token at 4 might, so that is 9.
I think it's 27 might. I haven't added it up fully, but it's 4, 8, 12, 16, 19, 22, Viktor 25, 27, I think is correct. I can't quite remember. Is Viktor 3 or 4?
4.
4, okay, so 28.
So we have to pay attention to not think that this Under Titan is also attacking, because it is currently basically in the battlefield of Obelisk of Power, but of course there's so many unit cards that you need to find a different place to play this Under Titan. But I think so. We need to take out 9 on the arena's greatest. I think that's the easiest one to do. So we have 2 tokens, that is 4. Then if you push in the 4, then you also want to push in the Viktor leader, I would say, because that is 11. No, that's wrong. That is actually only 10.
So how much?
That's enough.
How much do we have on the arena's greatest? Did you say?
So that should be 9.
So we think that that is 9.
Yeah.
All right. I tried.
I hope that you guys can see the things we're drawing right now, but if not, then too bad.
Yeah, I don't want to break everything, so I might leave it with that. But yeah, anyway, that's not important. 9 on the arena's greatest. So you can get past that with essentially the 3 recruits. I guess you kind of have to play around what is in hand. So looking at things, you can kind of expect a Stupefy. You don't care so much about that. I mean...
What else do you play about? I do not think that you're playing the Void Seeker.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you play around Void Seeker? Probably not.
Void Seeker is not the greatest card if you do not have Kaiser Legend ability.
So this is going with another 6 on top of that, so that's 10, 14. If the 2 recruits that are in hand, they're the ones without buffs, go onto battlefield, so that would be...
I think
14.
The most efficient way to do this is just take a Recruit and Viktor, because they together go to 10. And I mean, that would play into Stupefy, but that would still... I mean, it wouldn't play into double Stupefy, so I think...
always also have to play around Rumble ability, right? So you do need to go quite a bit over, just to make sure you're getting past that break point of, like, I'm definitely getting this battlefield.
We're pushing multiple Recruit tokens. I thought that was another Recruit token with a buff, so we have 4, 8... 11, 14.
Yeah, it's 14, yeah.
That is quite the overkill, I want to mention.
And then I just want, can you clear the other battlefield? There you go.
That's the next question.
4, 8.
4, 8, and 6,
it's 14? Yeah, because 28.
I mean,
yeah, we could have done that. 28 is pretty easily divisible at that point.
It would be enough to, but does it play around so many things?
Yeah, what have we got in hand? I think there was a Stupefy there.
Yes, and I think we have our Rumble signature spell that can be repeated. So you're getting full value out of all of the runes that you are having still left open. That would be +2 for every single mech. And you can use that on the first combat, the Danger Zone. And we can also, you know, profit from it from the second one. All right, Danger Zone is being used.
There is Danger Zone.
Everything immediately gets recycled.
We will not sing the song, because
I like
again,
that
we don't need to get DMCA'd.
Being hesitant on which runes to recycle, almost went for the easy way, you know, physically, of taking 2 Mind Runes, but then decided, hey, I also want to take a Fury rune and on 1 Mind Rune, so I'm very well distributed with those runes. Really like that play.
Was Danger Zone repeated? I didn't quite catch how much was tapped. So it was repeated, and then a Stupefy comes out. So essentially, with the defense trigger, plus the Danger Zone, that's going to give the mechs that are defending +3. Plus the Stupefy is going to give -, so we're really in the tank on math here. It's been a long time since I was in school, so...
9, and then you get +4, which is 13, and we had 14 before, no?
It was 14 as we had it, so it is going to be a full trade?
Full trading, yeah.
Okay, so that then
could have been worse.
It could have been worse for the Rumble player. I mean, now we get to look at like what happens on the second half of this, because you can't conquer both battlefields now as Viktor. You don't have the might. And then what does it leave us with? 6 plus 3 plus the defender triggers plus the extra 2 from the might, so it's 8 plus 5, 13 plus defender triggers. So 15?
Yeah, I think that Chacho is actually at a really decent spot here if he just conquers the arena's greatest. Because your opponent is going to hold up to 6 only, so that is not game shot for them. You still have the body of the Under Titan. There is also a world in which you just...
Do you have to full hold here and put recruits and the Viktor on the battlefield and just say, okay, we'll try and get onto things on your turn? Or is that overkill?
I can see that. Depends on how desperate you're getting with the game, right? Because if there's a singularity, I think you lose the game either way.
Yeah, and next turn would be Watcher if Rumble's playing it. Again, I'm sorry, I can't quite remember the deck list from the beginning if it were in there, but anytime I'm playing against blue, I'm like, okay, Watcher at 8 is always like a break point to watch for and play around. So Rumble goes up to 6.
Yep.
Can't win this turn then, but needs to be able to deal with this heavy hold of...
I mean, it can basically win, right?
9.
If you are finding the right card.
There is the Watcher!
Oh, that is a Watcher, and that is so important because there is not a lot of might anymore on that field. You can take
it's full might now,
basically everything, and I do not think that there is anything that can be played from Chacho. Just basically gives up all of those cards, takes the ability to go for another push away.
Basically, as you said, is game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how Viktor with
nothing,
like not a lot, can actually do this. I mean, you get what, Under Titan, Singularity doesn't win this for you because it won't get through Watcher and the Forerunner, and then you give them 2 mechs in order to conquer both.
You need to conquer both because otherwise you lose. It's not conquer both to win, it's conquer both
to
or
stay in it.
Lose.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is a match that will qualify one of these players, and there is the handshake. Klimczur will take the series 2-0, goes into the last round of the day knowing that they're locked for day 2 of Swiss with a 6-1 record so far. And that looked tense right down to the last moment where it was like, well, this Viktor math is going to add up. Everything, is it enough to get over the line? And it wasn't. Through that danger zone, through all the defensive triggers on the Rumble, is able to survive.
If you're messing with the mech, you're gonna get into the danger zone. This is just what it is. Some of those really niche combat tricks. I mean, let's be realistic. Many people for practicing for this tournament, they have never played versus Rumble. I'm guessing that some people also don't even know what Danger Zone does. Yeah,
I was not expecting to say as we ended round 7 that a Rumble would be 6-1. But here we are playing for potentially now, looking for maybe a tournament placement, not just that best of Rumble card. But we are going to take a few moments before we get into round 8, the final round of the day, to see who will stay in the tournament for day 2.